Yeah!
What was that?
I don't know. You were just like, bam, bam, bam. We have not been indulging in adult beverages.
We haven't.
Hey everyone, Dan and Leslie back with another video about how to plan Disney World, the most complicated vacation you may ever take.
Hey everybody, today we are talking about the 10 biggest rookie mistakes that you can make in Disney World.
Number 10 is not staying on Disney property. So there are even more reasons now to stay on Disney property than there were just a few months ago. So number 1 is taking advantage of the perks. And maybe one of the biggest perks right now is the ability to book lightning lanes 7 days before your parks start if you're staying on Disney property, which is a pretty big advantage if you're wanting to pay for the ability to skip the regular standby line.
Yes, other perks of staying on property include getting a Disney dining plan of some kind, if that's something that you want to pre-purchase and cover some of your meal costs. And then also the early entry into everything park for an additional 30 minutes.
In addition to the perks of staying on property, we love the convenience of staying on property. So when you're staying on property, all of the Disney transportation is free. So boats, monorails, skyliners, buses, it's all free to get you from your resort to Disney Springs, the mini golf courses, the regular theme parks, 4 of them, the water parks, 2 of those. There's a ton of things to do on Disney property, which is 40 square miles. It is huge. So if you see a resort that is not a Disney-owned resort that says right next to the Disney World entrance, that doesn't mean that is right next to Magic Kingdom or right next to Hollywood Studios. It could still be 15, 20 minutes away from the parks.
Yes, and then ultimately it is just staying within that Disney bubble. There's just something really truly magical about arriving on property and not leaving until your plane takes you away.
Number 9 is not paying attention to the hours of operations, the closures that may be happening, and any construction that might be going on or around your resort. So let's start with hours of operations. Especially important this time of year when Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party is going on and moving into the Christmas season when Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party is going on. Magic Kingdom shuts down early multiple times per week. And so it's really a bad day if you don't know they're gonna shut down early and you weren't planning to, or they've already sold out tickets for one of those hard ticketed events and you made that your Magic Kingdom day. That is a bad day.
While there's not as many, Jollywood Nights happens over at Hollywood Studios select nights during the Christmas season as well, and so it closes early.
Parks also sometimes close just randomly for no good apparent reason. I mean, there's a good reason, but it's usually corporate events. So maybe a huge corporation has rented out the theme park for the last few hours of the day, or Disney does their own events for cast member appreciation nights, that type of thing. So understanding when a park closure is gonna happen during your trip would be really helpful to be able to plan around it.
Another thing with park hours is that park hours change with the seasons. So, and so do the fireworks. So as we have daylight savings, which I keep hearing that that's going away. I just wish it would at some point. Anyway, but as we transition into different seasons, the fireworks times will change, and so that's something to keep in consideration. And water parks are not always open. There is always one water park open, but not both of them at the same time. Usually, if they are open at the same time, it's just for small periods of time.
Disney World as a whole is open 365 days a year, meaning they can never take weeks off at a time to just shut down to complete maintenance, meaning they have to complete maintenance and construction projects during operations, right? So one of the ones that creeps up on a lot of people is the Skyliner maintenance. And they typically shut down the Skyliner for 10 to 14 days in the winter months here. I mean, it's still nice, it can still operate, but that's when the least number of people might be using the Skyliner, and they're gonna do routine maintenance on that. It would really be bad to specifically stay at a Skyliner resort to use the Skyliner and show up during a time when that thing is shut down.
And then finally, ride refurbishments and construction at your resort are things to keep an eye on. Some of these things will pop up just kind of suddenly. Recently we had some food court renovations happening over at Pop Century that just kind of popped up, but it was still functional. It just wasn't fully like a full food court. So it may not completely impact your vacation, but it's something to be aware of.
Number 8 on our list of rookie mistakes not to make at Disney World is taking advice that might not apply to you. So just because one of your friends or one of your family members or some random people you see on YouTube say something is a must-do, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a must-do for your family. There are tons of things that exist in the Disney bubble that our kids maybe not be so fond of. There are tons of things that we maybe not like so much. And so it's really important to, yes, get all the information you can. You can take other people's advice that have been there before, that have done it, that have enjoyed things or maybe not like so things. Our dining reviews are a perfect example. Just because we went, it could have been an off day, or maybe our tastes are different than your tastes. So understand that there's a lot of information out there and everybody has their own opinion, but just filter it through the lens of what your family enjoys, because just trying to do everything that everyone out there says you have to do is going to be more frustrating than anything.
Yes. All right, number 7 is not understanding how to use the technology. My Disney experience is here to stay, I think. And while it is improving and it has gotten better over the years, it is still something that you need to be a little bit familiar with before you actually arrive on Disney property and are trying to figure it out while you're in the most magical place on earth.
Yeah, there are certain things that you have to use My Disney Experience, the actual app for, like lightning lanes. You have to use the app. There's no way to do it other than that. But there's a lot of things you can do in the app that will save you time and make your trip more efficient. So like checking out from a merchandise location using the app. You can skip the lines at the register. Ordering your food before you arrive at a quick service restaurant will save you time standing in line at the register. It will definitely make it for a better trip, assuming that the app is working. It does go down occasionally. You can also ask for things in the app using the chat feature. Things like if you have a problem with your trip, or if something needs to be linked, or if there's an issue with your tickets, things like that. You can maybe avoid standing in line at guest relations and use the app to your advantage that way. All right, number 6 is not planning for the weather. Sometimes Florida has the best weather I have ever seen in my life, especially January, February. You're probably gonna get some pretty good weather most of the time, depending on what's happening that year. However, in the summers, in the falls, we're creeping up on October right now, and a hurricane just happened in the Gulf. Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party got canceled one night. There are rainstorms routinely in the summer, almost every day. There is a big bright orange ball of just fiery awesomeness that is just brutal sometimes in the summer. So you gotta plan for these things, because if you get caught in a rainstorm and you only brought one pair of really awesome tennis shoes and they get soaked and it's day 1 of your trip, it's not gonna be fun. You're gonna have to try and dry those things out with a hairdryer, or it's not a good look.
Or if you didn't wear sunscreen and got completely fried on your first day here, it is going to be a very painful rest of your vacation.
Umbrellas are super important for us to bring into the parks either way, because if you get the UV protecting umbrellas, you can actually pop those things open if you're outside in the sun, like in a line or something like that, and they will protect you from your sun. If you are caught in an unexpected shower or an expected shower, those can actually protect you from the rain as well. So we actually prefer umbrellas now, because we used to bring ponchos and do the sunscreen and all this stuff. And while sunscreen is still important, we actually just pop it into the parks for a quick trip. We'll just always bring umbrellas with us, and that way we're always protected.
All right, the number 5 mistake is not planning to rest. And I mean, we cannot preach this enough, how important rest time is, whether that is a full rest day in the middle of your vacation where maybe you just sleep in and go to the pool or Disney Springs or have a resort day, or having periods of rest during every single day of your trip. I have actually had clients come back to me after their vacation and say, we thought we were fine because our kids were older, and we heard you say rest, but we thought, nah. And now we understand.
Disney World is a lot. I mean, other than it being 40 square miles and there being just a whole lot to do, the fear of missing out is real here.
Yeah.
It is really hard to, especially when you have it planned for rest days, to actually take rest time. And when you hit a wall hard here. Yeah. And so we learned the hard way early on, over a decade ago, when we started coming here for week-long trips. We always, after that first trip, planned at least one rest day in between 2 pairs of park days, just because you can't, like, our family cannot go open to close 3 full days in a row. We just can't, especially when you're walking 20,000 steps in a day, especially when you have young kids and you're pushing strollers and all of that stuff, on top of the rainstorms and the sun and all of that stuff. So it is really important, and even if you don't have the time to allocate a full rest day to your vacation, absolutely, like we would use like maybe a nice table service break, and so we'd have a nice table service meal, maybe like early afternoon, that would break up the morning from the evening. We get an hour and a half in the air conditioning, away from the sun, be able to sit down, be waited on, fantastic. Or maybe go to Disney Springs in the evening, or do some pool time in the morning, that kind of thing.
Yep. All right, number 4 is not using a travel agent that specializes in Disney. And I know, shameless plug here, but even if you don't use Fantastical Vacations, which I highly recommend, then just use at least somebody who understands Disney and how it functions, because it's so complicated and there's so many different nuances, and it is constantly changing, that you really need somebody in your corner to be able to help you navigate through all of that.
Yeah, and I can't speak for other travel agencies out there, but if you're booking with Fantastical Vacations, if you're booking a commissionable package, which the vast majority of things that we book for our clients are, then there's no additional cost. We get the exact same price as anyone can get just calling Disney directly or going on the Disney website, but we're here to warn you about all this stuff and make sure that you don't make these mistakes. Number 3 is not purchasing things that you do not need. Or I guess the mistake would be purchasing things that you do not need. And so there are things that we dissuade our clients all the time on, that Disney is happy to sell you and would not even think about talking you out of, but it's for our clients' benefit. So for example, park hoppers. This is an added expense that is not often necessary, especially for first timers. There's definitely a time and place to use park hoppers. We love having park hoppers with our annual pass, because we'll go into one park for an hour, or maybe we'll go from one park to another park to do some content, that kind of thing. But if it's your first time, these parks are full day parks, all of them. So why pay for the ability to go to more than one park in a day if you're gonna spend all day in one of these parks for 4 days in a row? Another one would be the dining plan.
Yeah, and we're not saying that it never makes sense for these things. We're just saying that sometimes, and depending on your vacation, it may not make sense. It may have totally made sense on one trip, and then it just doesn't on another, depending on how you're gonna navigate the parks and what your plans are for that vacation. All right, the number 2 rookie mistake is not taking advantage of those booking windows. So there are certain booking windows that are just important to kind of keep note of, which, by the way, a travel agent specializing in Disney will help you do. And that is, first of all, your dining window, which opens 60 days prior to your arrival date. And then the other piece of that is your lightning lanes, which you can now book 7 days prior to your arrival date if you're staying on Disney property. So knowing those booking windows and taking advantage of it so that you don't miss out on some of those really hard to get options.
And the number 1 rookie mistake for Disney World planning is to over-plan.
Oh, yeah.
This is something that we say on the podcast all the time. If you take a Disney World vacation and you plan every minute on a schedule, you are going to get so frustrated, because I don't care how well you've planned it, things happen. Rides break down. Tiana's Bayou Adventure has a ton of issues. You may not know if you're gonna get a virtual queue and when it is going to be. You may plan dining reservations that look great on paper, but you show up and you're not hungry. There are a ton of things that you're just gonna get frustrated by. Transportation failures happen all the time. Monorails break down. Buses don't show up on time. It is really stressful to have a ton of things planned out by the minute and miss a reservation, or miss even just a time that's on the schedule. It just becomes stressful, and honestly, that's when we have found that we get the least amount of quality family time together, is when we're just rushing, trying to hit the next thing and not taking time to enjoy the moment.
And ultimately, whenever you overplan, I promise you, you are missing out on the most spectacular spectacular, magical moments with your family or whoever you are traveling with, because things just tend to happen, and if you don't let them just happen and play out, sometimes you're missing that really spectacular memory. All right, if you are liking these videos, please hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss the next one.
And we will see you on the next video.